it's been really cool rolling up in here. So on Thursday nights I do the ESPN game, so I did Louisville, NC State. So got about 2 hours of sleep and rolled up here, and everyone's like, "Oh, are you tired?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just so thankful to be here and back in a place that obviously means a lot to me, and seeing a lot of people that mean so much to me. So it's been really cool to be back here and enjoying it so far. We cannot wait for this show. We feel like there's going to be a really cool turnout, and this is a game that has a ton of conversation around it everywhere in sports, so it should be really fun tomorrow.
Do you think it kind of sends a message that it's also homecoming to LSU?
Yes, and it was funny because talking to some Florida players earlier in the week, they felt like that served as a ton of motivation for LSU, and they were kind of like, yeah, you know, maybe it's not the best thing that this is homecoming, because you don't want certainly an angry LSU team. Even though they're coming off a loss to Troy, there's still a ton of talent on that team. So I think they're expecting a competitive team to show up and look a lot different than what they looked like last week. But there is something weird with this homecoming thing. It used to be that homecomings were like cupcake teams, and you would kind of go into it thinking, all right, we're going to run over these people. It's going to be a whole bunch of celebration. It's homecoming. We're seeing Georgia and Vandy scheduled Georgia for their homecoming. It's like becoming a trend now where they're scheduling teams, I think, to make people mad. So it's interesting that seems to be the way things are going.
Well, what do you make of LSU and their problems right now? What do you think is wrong with them based on what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some miscommunication on the coaching side of things, and I think that's where you do become a little bit concerned for them, because Ed Ogeron talking about Matt Canada's play calling and talking about the offense, obviously the defense has not lived up to what we thought they would be under Dave Aranda, and there was this mantra coming into the season that said, okay, Coach O is going to be the guy that's the motivator, he's going to be in charge of everything from that standpoint, and then you're going to have Canada coaching the offense and Aranda coaching the defense. It all sounded good until it really hasn't worked so far, and it did work earlier on in the season, but that was against much lesser talent. So I think they have a ton of kinks to work out, but what Florida should be maybe a little bit scared of is this is the type of game that could jumpstart them. You know, if they really get out there and get something going or get a big win on the road, that could be just the medicine that they need to figure out what's going wrong. So I know that Florida's prepared for that, but that would be the one thing that I would be concerned about. They are a disaster right now, it seems, but you know, people are only a disaster until they're not anymore, and then you look back and you say, well, wait, I thought this team was supposed to be a mess, and then they came here and beat Florida. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
How much ill will do you think still left over from the Hurricane rescheduling and then the Gators going in there and beating them on their own field?
I think there's a lot to that, and there's sort of this question of, is this game more about what happened last year, or is it more about LSU losing to Troy? And I think it's more about what happened last year. I think there's some bad blood between these teams, and we even saw before that game last year, if you remember, there was the little skirmish that happened pre-game. I was on the field there in Baton Rouge, and they were saying that it had something to do with who the real DBU was. So, I mean, I know that's a question that we all talk about all the time, and I know who I think the real DBU is, but I'm sure you guys all could understand who that would be. But I do think that there is some serious issue between these two teams, and a lot of it too goes back to that a lot of these guys played together in high school or knew each other in high school, played at some of these 7-on-7 camps, so they've known each other for years. There's a ton of competition there, and I think that that has not gotten out of the head of LSU, that's for sure.
Being a host, what's it like to kind of be the traffic cop on the set and bounce around and so forth, and how are you adjusting to that?
Yeah, I always wish that people could hear like what's going on in my ear, because, you know, there's the guys and they're doing their thing, but I'm getting a ton of information and traffic, and okay, now we're going to do this, or no, actually we're not going to do that, and we have great producers and directors on this show, and I'm just really fortunate to work with all of them, because this is obviously a new thing. I've had some hosting experience, but I would still say that I'm still pretty young in my career, so to get an opportunity to host a show like this, it's a difficult show, but so much fun. And what I found is that at the end of the day, what I think makes us a little bit different is that we're just sitting there kind of in a more intimate setting talking football. And if you can sit there and talk football with Tim Tebow, Marcus Spears, and Paul Feinbaum, that's a pretty good day, right? That gets you ready for SEC football and football around the country as well. So just, I mean, literally pinch myself. Like, I can't believe that I'm having an opportunity to do this, and it really has been a ton of fun.
This game comes down to the fourth quarter. Who has the advantage?
That's a good question. I would say if this game comes down to the fourth quarter, Florida has an advantage because they have veterans on their D-line. I really think this is a line of scrimmage game. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Games are won and lost in the trenches. This one, I think, really factors in that way because LSU's O-line is very young. they don't have many starts consistently among those guys. And Florida's D-line really needs to step up. We've seen some talent there. We've seen some injuries. Seems like they're going to be a little more healthy this week. I think that's the key of the game. Florida's D-line can impose their will, limit, if we see Darius Geis, limit him, and really, at that point, you know, if you're Florida, you hope that you can sort of make sure that they're not getting anything going. I also think, too, if a team is going to get turnovers, I would say that Florida would be more inclined to do that, and that could be something that changes the game in the fourth quarter, too.
On the other side of that rushing performance we saw in Florida last week, is that a one-off against maybe not as good of a Vandy defense as we thought, or is that something they can build on?
I think Vandy's defense is really good, so I don't think that's a one-off. I think that was finally Florida getting into more of a rhythm, and you know, everybody here knows this. They're dealing with an issue where they have 9 players suspended, 2 of which in Callaway and Scarlett would be some of their go-to offensive playmakers. So to be able to kind of find an identity and figure things out, I think that was the real deal. They're going to have to carry it on against some incredible athletic talent in LSU, but LSU, as we've seen, has been not consistent. And so I do think that works in Florida's favor from that standpoint. I would also say, too, I mean, there are just some serious question marks if you look at LSU's rushing attack on whether or not Darius Geis is going to play. That's another big key in this game. If he plays and he's healthy, even if he's 80%, he could change the entire complexion of the game.
How do you feel about Cam Newton's apology? Do you accept it as a female journalist?
I do accept his apology. I felt like, you know, when I saw all of that, I'm like, are we really still doing this? We're in 2017, and it feels like every day we're asking ourselves a question like that about something going on in the world, and it's sort of a sad commentary. But what I would say about what Cam did is we all make mistakes. We all do something that we're not proud of. We all have those moments that we wish we could just swallow our words back and not have said what we said. And to come out and be very sincere, I believed him in his apology, and I think that we should forgive people if they apologize the way that he did, and I don't think he'll make that mistake again, which to me is progress when you end up looking back on it.
Last question, guys.
Thoughts on Franks? I mean, now he's kind of on an island, I don't think, with Del Rio out.
Yeah, you know, first of all, my heart goes out to Luke Del Rio. This guy has been somebody that has consistently shown that even if you can say, okay, whatever, he's not Tim Tebow, we all know that, but he has tried to play for this team. He's tried to be as good as he can. He's tried to be a great leader, and I just hate for him that he's not going to have that opportunity to continue to play this season. But for Franks, you know, now's the time, dude. Step up. Like, this is an opportunity to really get things going. And we know what his arm strength is. We know he's got that ability. He's got to, I think, early on complete some easy passes, get into a rhythm. To me, Franks hasn't really truly gotten into a rhythm passing yet. And if that can happen, that becomes a huge threat, because I do think, like we were talking about, the run game looked a lot better last week. And I think he's capable of it. I think he's finally fully understanding the playbook. I was talking to some players earlier this week, and they were saying that they've seen him improve every single game. So every time he's gotten an opportunity, he's gotten better, and that's all you can ask from a young guy. I think we all forget how young he is. You know, everybody's like, oh, this guy, you know, he was so highly touted, he's got this big arm, he threw the Hail Mary pass, okay, whatever, he's still really young. So I think this is a great opportunity for him to make a statement and build some more confidence.